thank our three sponsors for tonight's function. The Singapore Institute of Management, represented by Professor Lee Kwok Chong, who is the CEO of SIM. It's great talking with you earlier, Professor Lee. HSBC Premier, represented by Angelina Chan, who you've already seen up here, who's Senior Vice President, and also Treasury Wine Estates. Thank you all for your very valued support. I'm sure that everyone who is here this evening will agree that a gathering such as this is really an excellent and somewhat compelling demonstration of the power of education to transform lives. We are delighted to welcome here this evening some of Australia's most valued assets in Singapore, if I may describe you that way. Our Australian alumni, both recent and long-standing, from the Colombo Plan right through to the Endeavour Awards, all of which highlights over so many years the depth and the continuity of commitment and the personal relationships between our two great countries, Australia and Singapore. And these linkages are one of the primary pillars, if not the primary pillar, underpinning our very close bilateral relationship. Australia is particularly honoured to have some highly distinguished alumni represented in very senior leadership positions across the landscape of government, of commerce and academia here in Singapore. And there are many, so I can only name just a few luminaries. Let me start with the public sector. First and foremost, there is Minister Koh Boon Wan, who we're delighted, in fact very honoured to have attending this evening. I don't think he's here yet, but his arrival is imminent. Other distinguished public sector Australian alumni include Minister Raymond Lim and also Minister Marbal Tan. From the private sector, there's a few other household names. Dr. Tony Tan, Chairman of the Singapore Press Office. Mr. Chung Chung Tong, Chairman of OCBC, and Mr. Alan Liu, CEO of Singapore. We have Mr. Chia Kian Kang, CEO of Fairprice. Dr. Chu Tuan Chong, CEO of Fraser Centrepoint Trust, and Mr. Charlie Ma, who is the CEO of Deloitte for Asia Pacific. And then we have the entrepreneurs. We have the alumni network, which also includes Singaporean entrepreneurs such as Mr. Douglas Hu, who I thought was from APS Capital Holdings, at least he was last time I met him, but he gave me a new business card tonight, a new area of entrepreneurship called Sakha, and Mr. William Tao from Old Chatham Key. And there's some others that I would note in a more general sense, because in a role like mine, which is regional, I'm frequently amazed and highly impressed at the number of Australian educated Singaporeans that I meet and I do business with across the markets of my region, ranging from Pakistan to French-Polynesia. And they're characteristically capable, they're well-rounded, they're resourceful, they're industrious, and they're a credit to both of our nations. All of these people, and of course all of you as alumni this evening, are examples of the value of quality education, and in particular the value of an international education, which every one of you in different ways have since leveraged for the benefit of your families, for your community, for your country, as well as for yourselves. As High Commissioner has said, there's a significant number of Australian alumni here in Singapore. In fact, more than 100,000. And it's a number that we expect to grow significantly year by year, because even last year there were 9,500 Singaporean students studying in Australia. There's also the increasing number of students studying here from Singapore and the region, studying for an Australian qualification. In fact, at last count they numbered 23,000, which is quite amazing. And the fields of study are also quite varied and interesting. And the top five of them are health, which is rather appropriate given that we have the health minister coming tonight. Creative arts, management and commerce, natural and physical sciences, and society and culture. And many people think that the value of international education is one way. They're wrong. The value of international education is very much a two-way street. The dividends are very much shared. For Australia, our commitment to hosting international students and providing international education is central to the future of our international relationship. It's central to our geopolitical interests. It's central to our capacity to engage successfully in a competitive and increasingly sophisticated global economy. It's central to progressing sustainable trade and investment interests. In a globalised world so dependent on skills and knowledge, which only serious quality learning can deliver, education clearly has a critical role to play. The knowledge and the personal connections created from studying abroad, especially the transfer of ideas, of insights, of perspectives, of ways of thinking, of approaches to challenges, of approaches to problem solving and identifying opportunities, reinforced by that mutual understanding of cultures, of values, of sensitivities and aspirations, helps to underpin economic stability and political harmony between nations. And it also better equips us to imagine what a more prosperous shared future might look like. And so with these sentiments in mind, Australia has a great deal to thank alumni such as yourselves for, because we know that the international education that we offer in Australia deepens the experience of the Australian students who have studied alongside you. It also increases the skill base of Australia, not just the workforce of the international students' home country. We also know that international students are more likely to remain connected with the nation where they once studied, or stay behind for further research, or to pursue their career in some other sphere, which is another reason why we're taking the time this evening to acknowledge our distinguished alumni. It's something that's very important to us. Australia has the highest proportion of international students in tertiary institutions out of all of the advanced economies, according to the OECD. Through our geographic location and our existing trade and investment ties with Asia, which are in fact growing strongly and somewhat profoundly, Australia, nestled together with Singapore and the rest of ASEAN, sharing a common backyard with China and India, is participating in one of the greatest economic and social transformations in history. The 21st century will be the Asian century, a time when the Asia-Pacific region will be both politically and economically critical to global development. And Australia, in many ways, not just for education, but talking education tonight, is playing an influential role in educating the scientific, the business, and the political leadership of the growing Asia-Pacific region. Through our universities, through our vocational education and training institutions, through our English language schools, we're contributing to the growth of the knowledge-based economy of our region. And in that regard, your experience, your knowledge, as Australian alumni, has created a vast and valuable network of connections and relationships between Australians and Singaporeans. Not just here in Singapore, and not just in Australia, but between the Singaporeans and Australians around the world. And these connections will last for generations. And this is not just about Singapore and Australia being good neighbours. It's not just about Singapore and Australia being good pals, which we clearly are. It's about people-to-people links that actually mean something and deliver value. It's about family-to-family links that mean something and deliver value. It's about a genuine familiarity, a mutual understanding, and mutual advocacy, which is increasingly important in this complicated, competitive, and ever-changing world. And so therein is the call to action. They say there's no such thing as a free lunch. Well, there's no such thing as a free distinguished alumni function either. There is a call to action for all of us here And the call to action is about each of us better leveraging these connections and these linkages as the engine of growth and the engine of opportunity between our two great countries in trade and investment and many other areas as well. And that's not just about Australian businesses doing business better here in Singapore. It's not just about Singaporean businesses doing business better and more in Australia. It's about Singaporean business and Australian business doing more together in partnership with a superior combined value proposition that we both together in partnership take to the world. In other words, we're stronger together. So finally, it's in that context that, as our High Commissioner has said, we see each of you as alumni ambassadors, not just for Australian education, but in the broader sense, ambassadors for Australia for Singaporeans and ambassadors for Singapore to Australia. And so it's in that spirit and for that fundamental reason that we'd like to acknowledge you all this evening and thank you all for your valued contributions in this great endeavour. Thank you.